Our next guest has an incredible story. From losing her mom to cancer at age 10, to playing semi-professional baseball, to serving as a lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps and leading an entire platoon while deployed in Fallujah, Iraq. But during her military service, she kept a secret. She struggled with severe bulimia. And now she's authored a book about her journey, titled Warrior: True Strength Isn't Always What It Looks Like. Take a look.
This one goes out to those who have a secret. To those who are fighting a constant war with themselves. To those who are afraid of what it means to ask for help. Some wounds are visible. Others are not. But you can choose to be strong, to face your battles head on.
Joining me now is the warrior woman herself, Dr. Teresa Larson. Dr. Larson, thanks for being on the show.
I'm excited to be here, Liz.
It's great to have you. So tell me about your story.
So Warrior, well, it started 3 years ago when I decided to write this book. But my journey in life, obviously I'm 34 years old, lost my mom at age 10. Very athletic woman, very driven woman, which I know a lot of people can probably relate to, being very driven. Decided to go in the military after college. I became an officer in the Marine Corps after playing collegiate sports, Villanova. Go Villanova, I just won the NCAA. Got to give a little shout out. Yes. But decided to become a Marine thanks to the influence of my brothers. They were both Marines. One was enlisted and one was an officer. And became an engineer in the Marine Corps. And I was very proud to serve my country. My family was very patriotic, and I wanted to make a difference as a woman. I wanted to set a standard. Being very athletic and wanting challenges, this was like the perfect job for me right out of college, so to speak. And so going to the Marine Corps, I was immediately in charge of 54 amazing men and women. Some were hard to deal with, but that's usual. But we trained a lot together, still very competitive, but the pressure was on. And I developed an eating disorder while I was in the Marine Corps. That's the way I coped with the stress of the work, the stress of wanting to be perfect, the stress of not wanting to let my Marines down, the stress of what I held myself to as a woman. I couldn't get any less than 20 pull-ups, running 3 miles in less than 21 minutes. Like, I had to be the best. And so the way I coped when I didn't feel like I lived up to the best was I was bulimic. It was called bulimia nervosa. It's binging and purging food or not eating for a period of time, but getting rid of it. And I didn't want to tell anybody because I was so driven and I wanted to be the best. And if I did say something, the military doesn't really know what to do with someone who struggles with a disorder like that. They know what to do with alcoholism. Drug addiction, you're usually out. But alcoholism is something they understand. And I was not going to be that person that didn't deploy with my Marines. And I honestly, kind of the way the disease works is I didn't acknowledge that it was a disease. I was like, this is just an eating issue. It's going to go away when I deploy. So deploying to Iraq, I went, and of course it got worse because the stress was higher. And I wasn't just a woman behind a desk. I wasn't just a Marine behind a desk. I was in combat before women were even recognized as being in combat. And I realized in some very hard times out there, out in the field, that I'm going to hurt somebody if I keep this up. Like, I'm not functioning 100%. And it was finally then, before something bad happened, that I admitted I needed help.
Right, when you realized that it wasn't about you, it wasn't about what you were going through, that you were responsible for all these people, you were responsible for their lives and well-being, and not being at fully functional, like you said, would put them in danger. So really you did sacrifice yourself for them by having the courage to say something. Now, talk to me about your journey, because you say you lost your mother when you were 10 to cancer. Tell me about your mom.
So my mom was an amazingly bright, humble, lovely woman. For 6 years of my young life, she did struggle with breast cancer. So I saw her struggle, but she always was very happy and giving to us as kids. And one of the things she told me at a young age, she's like, Teresa, this isn't fair, what's happening to me, but life has to go on, always. Like, choose life. Because it's very easy in times of, I learned later on, when you have a tragedy happen, bad things happen, people want to give up. And it's like, even with this disorder that happened, I wanted to give up, but I wouldn't let myself.
So
like,
her
deep
influence
down.
has been
Yeah.
with you all the time. Was her influence part of your choice to join the military? I know you said you come from a Marine Corps family.
Yes. No, I would say if she was alive, I don't know if she would influence me to go in the Marine Corps. My dad was stoked about it. My brothers were stoked about it. I grew up in a male-dominated family. They were awesome, but we were very competitive. And so, yeah, no, I think if she was alive, she might have tried to battle that decision a little bit. But I'm very proud I served. I do know, though, having lost a parent, and this is something that over the years I've finally grown to accept, is that when I was little, I didn't want to grieve the loss. It was too hard. And so I definitely chose achievement in sports and school to build my self-esteem, because the grieving and getting to know myself and letting myself kind of feel was too hard. So I became a very high achiever, and that my self-esteem was built on getting good grades, winning games, being put in the paper, and that carried out through my entire high school, college life into the Marine Corps. I was known as the fitness lady.
Right, you're one of the few. There's not too many. There's not too many ladies that are Marines at all.
No.
Fewer even that are Marine Corps officers.
Yes.
Tell me about your experience when you were deployed, when you were one of the few women in Fallujah, Iraq. What was that
Yes.
like?
Well, it was exciting in a lot of ways for me, because my job, I worked with female insurgents, right? I was an escort for female insurgents. And that was a very unique job that I do sometimes at night. And then during the day, I'd run convoys with my Marines. So doing engineering work, we would either do landmine clearing or we'd go build vehicle checkpoints. We'd sleep out in the field too with some infantry officer units, or some infantry units. And so it was intense, but like having grown up with brothers and wanting to be a Boy Scout, like it was fine.
It was exactly what you were used to.
I could do it. Yeah, it was totally fine. I had to stick up for myself a lot, but I'm pretty good at that now. Especially if you read this book, you'll find all the different funny ways I stuck up for myself. But I also struggled with feeling lonely, because I had this eating disorder, and there was a deep sense of loneliness, because I had to be very careful of how you can't get too close to other Marines, or else people will start talking about you and spreading rumors. Well, she likes him. It's just, you just have to be very careful.
Especially as a woman, you have to almost hold yourself back a little bit. Tell me about what your advice would be to other women who are going through this. I know that you were in a unique situation as a woman in the military. I don't know if that's common in the military or not, but there are a lot of girls who struggle with that same thing, that wanting to pursue perfection and thinking that perfection comes from what you physically look like, or what picture you can paint for the public. But how do you deal with that?
So it's hard, and it's not something that comes easy, because I'm still in the public eye a lot. But I do know that I've slowly gotten myself away from comparing myself to others. So what I would tell women everywhere, whether you're in the military or not, it's better to strive for excellence, because to strive for excellence comes from inside. So look at who you are, your body, how you think, how you react, who you are. Think of it as a beautiful thing, and start to strive for excellence, being the best version of you, versus saying, I want to be like Liz, I want to be like Sarah, I want to be like one of my friends. Like, we're totally different people. And when you start to actually think that way, starting to build yourself up from within, you kind of break that kind of chain of thinking. So neuroplasticity takes place, right? I'm going to get real nerdy. And you start to rewire the way your brain thinks. So it's really cool. Like, I've gotten really nerdy with my therapy, and the therapy I've done, because our brain does really jacked up things and tells us things like, you have to look this way, you have to act this way to be liked. And it's like, look at social media, right? It's not okay. So you constantly, if you can look from within, find, figure out who you are and learn to love who you are and say good things to yourself, it goes a long way.
Right, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need help. Dr.
Yes.
Larson, your story is incredible. I encourage everybody to pick up her book, Warrior. It's available now. It's a great read. Dr. Larson, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Lynn.